The biggest location and last day on Earth is finally here, and I am behind the curve. I do apologize. Traveling for work, finally getting to sit down. We're a couple of days in here. By the time you watch this, will be a handful more days. Actually, probably close to halfway through the event. But we're going to share some thoughts. We're going to run around on the old bike. We're going to clear some locations. Let's get in and let's have some fun. So, Uncharted Territories, running our motorcycle, picking up a whole bunch of stuff, killing some zombies, getting some airdrops. There is a lot to do here. Initial impressions. I like it. Here's the thing. It's different. I am all for trying new things, finding some different things. I have my gripes. I have my few complaints. I'll say instead of gripes and complaints, I have a few things that I'd like to see maybe adjusted as we get going forward. But we'll spend some time doing a few things before we talk about that. This is a holy moly. Look at all these toxic spitters. Okay, I've cleared this location a few times. I have never seen that many toxic spitters. Literally all at once. So there's a lot of RNG with this, as there typically is, although some of these locations end up being pretty similar as well. Here's what you need in order to be prepared for this location. And I don't think you have to spend an immense amount of time doing and coming here. A couple of runs per day are going to get you some pretty good progress. I haven't quite mathed it out in terms of where you need to be with it to get max level. We'll do a little quick clearance here, knock out a few things, grab some stuff. Essentially, I want to just probably try to get the airdrop and potentially look and grab one of the tool chests or one of the chests to take back. We're going to do some bike upgrades as well, because I think that's one of the bigger things actually for this update, is going and being able to finally upgrade our bike, get some additional storage. I've heard a lot of talk and I've seen some things online, certainly mixed. I won't say, generally it's been pretty positive, but a little bit of mixed review, at least on some of the update here. This is a huge location. And I have seen a lot of folks, depending on what kind of phone you have and maybe how much RAM and different stuff that you're running, that this location is probably a little bit of a battery drainer. And I could see that. Now, we obviously play here on, maybe it's not obvious. I play on my computer here, but I do run this on my phone. I haven't had too many specific issues, but I'll be honest with you, I haven't done a ton here on the phone. I've mostly been playing this event here on my, holy moly. I've been mostly playing this event here on my my PC. You could certainly play this a few different ways. One of the things that I enjoy up front here is it seems to be a pretty decent amount and variation of loot. Now, a lot of it is kind of focused, obviously, for this event, which, you know, to be transparent, makes a lot of sense, right? There's event loot that you need to be able to grab. But like this, I've been finding some pretty good pieces of armor at these raider camps. I do wish the raiders would drop their weapons. I do think that would be pretty nice, even if you just picked up a couple machetes, maybe some zip guns, just something a little extra would be pretty nice if we could go ahead and find that. I do like that there is what feels like more of an I'm gonna say kind of like an alive location. It brings you in a little bit more, which is cool. You got the airdrop feature that's, you know, something is spawning while we're in this location, which I like genuinely really enjoy. I think that's really neat. We haven't seen a ton of things like that. You have this little kind of queued up event where you jump in here and these guys are ready to rock and roll and take you out. So some pretty cool stuff to enjoy overall. I like that it's huge. I like the crazy thing. I have to just comment on this. Seen quite a few comments on Reddit and some other places about some folks having difficulty controlling the bike. The funny part is, when I think about that, is how often did you really control your bike previous to this? many, I would say many players probably got the bike and at most drove it from the garage out of their location, and very rarely probably drove it around. The bike has never handled well, which is, I guess a little unfortunate if you want to talk about it. And I do sympathize with that for sure. Some bike handling would go a long way, but it's just never been great. And I think a lot of it ends up being you got to kind of learn to kind of, I'm gonna say, feather the old gas here. I do think some of the barriers are a little restrictive. I've seen some comments in our Discord about running zombies over. I do wish that maybe with some of the mods, and I haven't done any of the mods yet, that maybe we got a little bit more capability. Location's huge. It's really cool. I do enjoy that part of it. I think that navigating it like we're driving around here sometimes can be a little interesting. I like that we have, like the little notifications. So it's definitely interesting, different, fun. I have genuinely, like I said, pretty well enjoyed this. Now I don't know why like I'm getting stuck right here. There's a few things like boundaries and things that don't make a ton of sense to me. Like that feels like I should be able to drive through there, shouldn't it? I feel like it is. Also, as you just saw, it's kind of interesting that like the zombies have like, I'm gonna call kind of like a radar or like an area that they're not going to go into, which I also kind of find pretty interesting. I've liked the variation of different locations. I think has been pretty cool. We do have a few. I guess I was kind of hopeful for a few more like new zombies. We don't have a boss here, which I don't necessarily think is like the worst thing ever, but some new types of zombies would have been pretty interesting. We really just get, I'm gonna call it location flavor zombies. We don't get anything mechanically different. You see a little bit more crawlers. You've got some, again, the locations feel a little bit more alive, just with all the different stuff that can pop up and is happening at once, which is neat. But again, at the same time, I was hopeful for at least something a little bit different. A few different zombies would have been pretty cool. But we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna stockpile up here. I really do want to try to hit the airdrop because I think that is one of the cooler aspects of this. And I don't think I didn't bring the transistors with me, so that is okay. I'm gonna go ahead and take this. Can I put this down? Can I put these down? No. My VIP storage ends up being really, really helpful, so I'm missing my switchboard transistors here. That's okay. We won't end up clearing this location. I do like that the map shows you cleared locations. I feel like some of these are maybe like, I don't want to say test features per se, but it feels like some of these things are just new things that they're testing out, right? And I also like that, and I think one of the main things that I hope folks realize with this update is this idea around a location this big. The fact that it can work is pretty huge for the game. Here's why I say that. It means that the game and what they're doing from a development standpoint potentially takes us into larger locations. And I'm thinking very specifically about suburbs here. Very, very specifically. My hope is that suburbs, maybe not quite as quote-unquote big as this from that perspective, in terms of like total size where we need to drive our chopper around. But you know what would be really awesome? It'd be exceptionally awesome if we got a location that had just a ton of different locations and floors and different things that we can go right into, right? You could really make the argument that like Bunker Alpha is a pretty large size, right? The difference ends up being is you're loading in between the different floors. This location, everything is happening simultaneously. Now there's granted a little bit more of a load up process to get things going. What is up with all the toxic spitters? This is interesting. This is not what I fought these last times around. And the VIP, our little nail gun here ends up being super huge for these locations. But I just think this is a really, really good test and a really good first iteration of a large zone that hopefully that they can build on. Continue to optimize, continue to find different ways to make it load faster and cleaner and better, and also make it so that they can do similar things like this in the future that hopefully are going to be very impactful. And like I said, Suburbs is the one that immediately comes to mind and I'm thinking about just constantly because that's the one that I want to be really good. I want that one to be awesome. I'm going to be honest. I want it to be awesome. I want it to be huge, and I want there to be a ton to do. So I am hoping that this is a good test run for that. All right. I think I should be nearing where we need to go here. The other thing that I don't think is bad about this location is a lot of it is, I'm going to say, very similar, right? Once you kind of get the flow and the pattern down, which then means, for the most part, outside of some, variation in zombies and some different stuff, which means that for the most part, you can come up with a pretty good strategy for how you want to take care of this, right? If you didn't bring the weapons to do this thing with the gasoline, don't do it. Skip it. I think that part's okay. I don't think you're missing necessarily a ton there. So just keep that in mind. Now, obviously, we're going to find some here. We'll find some gasoline, and we'll find some empty containers. We can certainly make use of this. My chopper has already been full from some previous runs the other day. That's one of the other things that I'm realizing has been exceptionally helpful. And I definitely need to prioritize getting some chopper upgrades going, as that is going to be big for me here. Okay, what do I want to get rid of? Let's get rid of this crowbar. And let's open this up. Get a little bit more fuel. You can dump the fuel in. Grab all these. All right, actually cannot do that. So let's just quickly drop these off really fast. You can come over here once you hit that key. Get a little bit of gasoline for yourself. That filled up all 4, which is actually quite nice. So then I could take all these back. And then I don't really necessarily need to do the airdrop, but I just think it's some of the best. I really genuinely think it's some of the best stuff that you can find. And I've had some pretty good airdrops already. One of my other, I'm going to call it a gripe. One of my other areas of improvement is there does feel like there's a ton of stuff here that kind of gets in the way of the chopper. Now, I understand that they don't want you just absolutely crazily speeding around and doing it like that. So some like debris in the way makes a little bit of sense, kind of neat. Certainly flavorful for the location, but I do wish it was just a little bit, just like a teeny bit easier to navigate. I think would be pretty nice. All right, let's take some zombies down here. Gonna get some big guys coming up front here. Big guys in the back. Let's dodge these boys. Now, one thing I haven't tried to do is like lure all these guys away, which I think would be pretty interesting. I haven't really tried to optimize my strat here. I've essentially just been trying to do my runs with my VIP weapons and just other weapons that I have, because trying to blaze through this as quick as you can, you can spend a lot of time here, which isn't a bad thing. I think the other thing that I'm not super big fan about with this location, one of my only like other real major issues, I've seen some folks talking about some crashes and stuff, so hopefully if you're experiencing that, like that gets fixed, because that is very frustrating. But one of my other major complaints, I'm gonna say, well, I gotta read this changes. Oh, I should probably queue it up. Is the fact that you lose all the stuff when you chopper if you die here, which got the coordinates, airdrops on the way. Where are we going? Vanna gas station. Okay, so it's close. That's one of my only other frustration points, is that I just don't think you should lose everything from the chopper. Maybe like half of your storage or something. I think they could find a little bit of balance with that, and it wouldn't be so bad. It'd be okay. Like, I think most people would be, I don't want to say okay with that, right? Because you never want to lose anything while you're there. But other than that, like I said, I like driving around. I think that part's cool. The fact that we actually have a location that we can put to use, the chopper, I think is pretty dang neat. Again, some of the barriers here are a little bit frustrating. All right, so we're back to the gas station. I'm gonna maneuver around here. And I meant to run into that. Promise. All right, let's hop off right here. Let's grab this, and then we're gonna head over to the gas station. We're gonna get some upgrades going. I just blaze this guy down really fast. Boom. He's dead. One of the other things I think is interesting as we're finishing this up here is the fact that we don't get our dog here. Now, granted, our dog would have probably a hard time keeping up with her chopper. So I do understand it a little bit. But it is a little sad that we don't get some of the extra storage options. Although on the back end of that, we do get the opportunity to upgrade, and hopefully we'll be able to get a couple of level ups. Like this. Again, weapon mod blueprints, some armor, some med supply, all that stuff. Like, pretty cool. Pretty good stuff, right? Like, you can't really be too mad at what you're finding here, right? At least I'm not. I'll say that. I am not. All right. Whiskey, I don't need. I'll take this. I can always make more crowbars. The engines seem pretty good. Let me just make sure we're topped up here. We are absolutely topped up. These extra 2 slots here would be great. And I'm thinking I've got 3, 4, 5, 3. I probably need a few more medical items. So let me take these over a couple of those. 2, 4, 5. Yep. Okay. I think we're looking pretty good. Oh, can I do anything with this gas? We've been driving around. Let me just drop the gas in there. We got one of the crates. Taking the med supplies. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'll see you back at the gas station real soon. Okay, we're at the gas station. Let's get to it here. Let's drop some stuff off. First and foremost, we got 1,000 there. We're going to go ahead and put all of these in here. Big time jumps here. Big time jumps. Really liking that. That is awesome. Oh, and it even took the stuff from the chopper. Oh, I did not know that. That's pretty interesting, actually. Okay, I can... yeah, we're going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and drop all these down. I definitely want to go ahead and get some upgrades here to the old bike. So let's go ahead and take a look at what else we can get. So if you have the bike maxed previously, you start, or if you've gotten it maxed previous to the update, level 74 is where you're going to be. Essentially, there's about 20 more levels or so that you're able to pick up here, and you can take a look and see where your stats are. So if you've made it to 74, you've already got max fuel saving and tank volume. So that goes all the way up to 300. You also have max speed. So it's kind of interesting what traits they decided to kind of keep and what things they decided to upgrade. I don't think any of these things are necessarily bad, but it is cool to see that we can get some durability increase. Certainly seeing some damage increase is pretty interesting. But the biggest thing I think everybody is going to be going after, at least initially, in my opinion, you should be focused on capacity, especially directly related to this event. But even outside of that, those 2 additional slots, if you raid, if you go to any other farming location, anything else you're going to do, getting your capacity up on the bike and getting those full 10 slots is going to be really, really huge. So I'm going to go ahead and take a mental picture here of everything we need. The cool part of here is we can turn in a whole bunch of motorcycle books. So we have a good handful of those. I've got basically one of each of these already. So I am ready to go from that. And I have some other stuff saved up. And you can put a pretty good chunk of stuff in here. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to get filled up with a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to run back to the base, grab a few things to also max out rep, and let's get everything dropped in and see where we land. All right, a quick trip home and a quick trip back. We got everything we need. Let's get it dropped in here and see how we're doing for our progress. So we can get started here with some bandages, some turkeys, some springs, some engines, and some alcohol. Here's what I do enjoy the most about this event, that the vast majority here looks like it is centered around these specific items. We haven't seen this a ton. We see this at different stages, but the way they've set this up this time puts a high priority on those. And I think less important that you fill this up with the rest of these things. A lot of this stuff, with the exception of maybe strong alcohol, isn't super, like, the rest of these things are super useful for a lot of players, right? You got some high-end meds here in both the turkeys and your med kits. Not the hardest thing to make by any stretch of the imagination, but also extremely useful. So I can see not dropping some of these in. Springs obviously very important for any modifications that you're going to do, or even some weapon repairs potentially with your repair bench. And then engines end up kind of losing their luster after a while, but if you're early on, you certainly need these to get a lot of stuff going, get your ATV, get different things put together. So I could see not focusing a ton on these top end and just really trying to fill this up, right? Just fill these up, get your different, your meds, your food, your tools, get those dropped in here for this event. And I think that is a pretty good way to go about it. So let's talk about this here really quickly. I don't think I've seen any major differences from what we saw in some of the sneak peek videos. Overall, this isn't the most exciting, I will say, of passes that we have. We have some cool stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and be able to get this. That's a neat backpack, some cool cosmetics, so I guess that's okay. But really the good value here, unfortunately, is locked behind the premium. The nice part is there is a drone blueprint. I'm a huge fan of those. I think those are one of the more rare things to be able to get with any regularity, so it is nice to see that as part of the free reward track. For those that care about Genesis weapons, you at least have the protector there a little bit. I'm interested to get this broken down motorcycle because I'm curious to see how this is going to go. The cool part about this is it only goes up to level 20. The big drawback for me, one of the last few, I'll say, complaints or gripes that I have about this event, is I never believe in the fact of locking a storage behind a premium pass. I don't think that's the right move. I think this should be free. I think this should maybe be earlier in the track, would be kind of cool as well. Let this be the top end reward, but unlock this, right? If you want to keep this closed, I think generally that's fine, right? For those that want to play, max the event, get the good rewards out of it. Don't spend the money if you don't need to. Obviously, there's some other cool rewards here. You can get a motorcycle, whatever. You can get some basically, you're paying a lot for this premium with the ability to just move your upgrade of your chopper forward. Is that the worst thing ever? No, not necessarily. If you like some of the rest of the stuff here, if you still need EXBPs, there's some genomes, but really you're paying a lot for essentially these motorcycle biker magazines and the storage. So we'll see. I am going to end up getting the premium for this, but we'll see how the storage ends up being. But not the greatest of reward tracks, I would say. Probably some work to be desired, but I do think some people are going to enjoy at least being able to get the cosmetics and have those options. And I don't think that's a bad choice. I really genuinely don't. I don't think that's a bad choice if they want to look to do that in the future, because I know lots of folks enjoy some cool cosmetics, myself from time to time as well. All right, let's get some stuff dropped in here and let's see how quickly we can do some upgrades. Would be great. So let's get everything dropped in. I think I brought enough to satisfy the gods here. Wow, is this not even going to get... This one won't even give me... I didn't even get a level. Now I have 19 of these, which is all that we had. We've been stockpiling. I've been honestly just picking these up. Commune Trials ends up being a really good place. You could pick one of these up for pretty dang cheap. I think it's like 200 points or something like that. So it's literally one legendary or hardest difficulty run in Commune Trials. So a good way to get some good experience. You can find these in the top of Transport Hub as well on the little police or security station from time to time. I have found a few there. And I honestly can't remember where I got the rest of them from. Probably a few other locations that I'm not thinking of. So this will at least give me a level. Almost 2. This is a long grind. I wonder if it's 14,000 points from here on. I'll be interested if anyone had like a ton of these books or whatever. Let me know down in the comments if it ended up being more than that. But we will get an upgrade. Yes, I got a capacity right off the bat. That's so huge. I am taking that. Absolutely. That is massive. Very, very excited about that. We can drop an engine or a generator there, so maybe we'll go ahead and do that. Pick up some extra pieces, parts as well. Get some extra experience, and I'll finish by just taking a look. That's awesome. 1 extra slot. We need 1 more. Get it maxed up. Very, very happy with that. Obviously, there's a handful of things that we can throw onto here to get our chopper upgraded even further, so that is pretty cool. I'm going to step out of here, and the last thing I want to just talk about is quickly, I do like one of the other big things that I'm a fan of, and generally I'm being pretty positive about this event because I can see what they're trying to do. I think some of this stuff was cool. Brand new big location, new event. I'm all for that stuff, right? I'm always going to be interested when they bring new things to the game, try different stuff out. And this is definitely a major departure from a lot of stuff that we've seen. It is at the core, go loot things, kill zombies, right? But the way that we can go about it, the way that we can kind of sneak into locations and do all that stuff is different, and I'm a big fan of that. Plus, like I've said before, I really like the idea that they're testing a big location. That makes me very excited for what the future may hold. I've seen this happen in other games where they start to push the limits on how much they could populate. You got to think there's a lot of zombies in this location, right? Way more zombies than we've seen. If you've ever raided and done any of the tricks where you can queue in a bunch of the zombies, you know that the game bogs down like crazy. That's not happening here. So there's some good stuff going on behind the scenes that I'm pretty excited about. But I'll finish with one of the last things, and I'm not super enticed to do this, but it is cool that we have some more upgrades, right? I'm a big fan of storage and different upgrades that we can get, making our base better and better. This gives longevity to essentially your base upgrades, settlement, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to see this. So we potentially will be jumping in and grabbing some upgrades for this, just because I am really curious to see how much it's going to cost. I think it's 500 genomes per. So I think at one point we'll do a video here in the very near term. We'll grab all of the garage upgrades and kind of show you what it takes to get those things going, so you know if you would like to do that. And maybe we'll show off each of the different new kind of pieces, parts, or things that we can use related to this event. And that's pretty exciting. So we'll be jumping in that for sure. Be sure to stay tuned to the channel. We're gonna have lots more. We got a couple of cool updates. We're gonna do some stuff here on free to play as well, and a couple other good ideas in the shoot. And I'm not traveling this week, so should be a good healthy dose of videos as you're used to. Let me know what you think of the new Scouting and Uncharted Territories event. And yeah, just excited to be back. Hopefully you're enjoying. Thanks so very much. We'll be sure to catch you in the next one.